The sky was quiet that morning. People went to work. Kids went to school. And the world moved like always. But then, it changed at exactly 9:13 a.m. Something massive appeared in Earth's orbit. It didn't make a sound. It didn't shoot any weapons. It just hung in the sky like a sleeping monster. People screamed, cars crashed, and phones lit up all over the world. Everyone looked up. The ship was dark silver, shaped like a blade, bigger than any mountain on Earth. No country claimed it. No one could stop it. Then came the message. It was sent to every screen, every radio, every device on the planet. The voice was cold and powerful. Prepare to meet your queen. That was it. Just one line. The world froze. Was this an invasion? A warning? A game? Governments called emergency meetings. Military bases went on high alert, but the ship didn't move. It just waited. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then, in the middle of the 4th night, a beam of white light came down from the ship. It touched the ground in a quiet desert in Nevada. From it stepped a figure. She was tall. No. She was more than tall. She was 8 feet of pure presence. Her skin was silver blue and shimmered like stars. Her eyes glowed purple, cold and sharp. Her hair floated as if wind followed her everywhere. She wore no armor, but no one dared get close. She was the queen, and she had come. Her guards followed, 4-legged creatures with dark armor and burning red eyes. The humans sent a small team to meet her. They wore suits and held microphones. They tried to speak. "Welcome to Earth," one man said, his voice shaking. The queen didn't respond. She looked around like she was inspecting a broken toy. Then she spoke. Her voice echoed inside everyone's mind. So small, so weak. The guards moved forward and began collecting samples: air, soil, plant life, and finally, human blood. People were taken, tested, scanned, then returned. But one man didn't come back. His name was Ethan. He was a simple man, a farmer. Living on the edge of town, he was tall, strong, but quiet. He didn't care about aliens or the news. He only came because his neighbor begged him to help with supplies at the testing site. When the guards scanned him, they stopped. They looked at each other without speaking. One of them growled a strange word. They took Ethan without warning. They didn't ask. They didn't explain. They just grabbed him and disappeared into the beam of light. The crowd screamed, but no one could stop them. Inside the ship, it was cold and quiet. The air felt heavy, like being deep underwater. Ethan was led through long halls of glowing walls. He didn't speak. He just watched, calm but alert. Finally, the guards stopped in front of a large door. It opened with a deep hum, and there she was, the queen, sitting on a throne made of glass and metal. She looked at Ethan, and for the first time, she didn't speak with disgust. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowed. "This one is different," she said slowly. Her scientists ran more tests, more scans, more blood samples. Every result shocked them. "He has something," one said. "It is not in others." The queen stood up and walked toward Ethan. He looked up at her, his face calm. He didn't flinch. He didn't bow. He just said, "You got what you wanted. Can I go now?" The queen paused. She had never been spoken to like that, especially not by a human, especially not without fear. She smiled. "Just a little. You will stay," she said. "I want to know more." Ethan shook his head. "I don't care what you want." The guard stepped forward, ready to attack, but the queen raised her hand. "Let him speak," she said. Ethan looked straight into her glowing eyes. "You think we're weak because we're small," he said, "but strength isn't about size." The room went silent. The queen stared at him for a long moment. Then she whispered something no one understood. Interesting? That was the beginning. The moment when everything started to change. Not just for Ethan. not just for the Queen, but for the entire galaxy. Ethan sat alone in a glowing room. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat, changing colors every few seconds. He had no clock, no window, no door handle, only silence. He didn't panic. He had grown up on a farm where storms came without warning. He had learned long ago that fear was a waste of time. Still, something about this place felt alive, like it was watching him. Suddenly, the wall opened without sound. A tall alien scientist entered. With long fingers and 4 eyes, it didn't speak. It held a small cube in its hand, glowing blue. It pointed at Ethan, then at the cube. Ethan nodded. He knew it wanted to test him again. They had been testing him since he arrived. Blood tests, brain scans, body scans, and strange questions he didn't understand. But this time, it felt different. The alien waved the cube in front of him. It hummed louder than before, then turned red. The alien paused, looked at Ethan, and then whispered something into a hidden device. Moments later, the Queen entered. Ethan stood up slowly. "You again," he said calmly. The Queen stared at him without speaking. Her eyes didn't glow as bright as before. She looked tired, or maybe confused. "You are not like the others," she said. "Yeah, I get that a lot," Ethan replied. Folding his arms, the Queen walked around him in a circle. "Our scans show strange energy in your cells," she said. "Something that should not exist in your kind," Ethan shrugged. "Maybe your machines are broken." The Queen ignored the comment. "You touched me yesterday," she said. "That should not have mattered." Ethan raised an eyebrow, but it did. She didn't answer. Instead, she signaled the scientist, who opened another wall. Beyond it was a lab, glowing with strange machines and floating screens. Ethan walked in slowly. The Queen followed. Watching closely, "This room is protected," she said. "No lies, no tricks, only truth." Ethan sat in a strange chair that wrapped around him like a cocoon. Lights scanned his body, and screens showed strange symbols. The alien scientists spoke in quiet voices. Moving nervously, suddenly the main screen turned white, then gold. Then a symbol appeared, not alien, but human. It was the shape of a seed. A small growing seed. The Queen stepped forward, eyes wide. "This is not possible," she said softly. "What does it mean?" Ethan asked. The Queen didn't speak for a long moment. Then she looked at him with something new in her eyes. Not anger, not pride, but something close to fear. "Our race cannot grow," she said. "We stopped evolving long ago. We control life. We make clones. We design soldiers. But this," she pointed at the screen. "This is natural growth. A seed that changes what it touches." Ethan stood up, confused. "So you're saying I'm some kind of what miracle?" The Queen didn't smile, but she didn't deny it either. "You are a threat to our order," she said, "or a cure." Ethan looked around the lab. "You're just now figuring that out." "No," she said. "I knew. The moment I felt your presence." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "Then why keep testing me?" "Because I do not trust what I do not control," she said coldly. Silence filled the lab. One of the scientists approached and whispered something urgent. In the Queen's ear, she turned sharply, her face dark. "What?" Ethan asked. "There is unrest," she said. "Some believe I have been influenced." "You mean they think you're going soft?" Ethan said, smirking. "They think I am no longer pure," she said bitterly. "Because I let you live, so what now?" Ethan asked. "I need more answers," she said. "I need to understand what you are doing to me." "Doing to you?" Ethan asked, surprised. She turned and touched a screen, revealing a scan of her own body. Her cells were changing, slowly. Like hers were copying something from his. Ethan stepped back, confused and a little scared. "You think I'm changing you?" "I know you are," she said. and I do not know if I should destroy you or protect you." They stood in silence, two very different beings facing something bigger than either of them understood. Ethan finally spoke. "I didn't come here to hurt anyone, but I won't be your lab rat." The Queen looked at him again, this time not as a subject, not as a weak human, but as something else, something rare, something dangerous. "Very well," she said. "No more tests, for now," as she left the lab. Her hand touched the wall, and it shimmered. She paused, closed her eyes, and whispered one word under her breath: change. Ethan was left standing in the glowing room, alone again, but no longer the same. The Queen sat alone in her private chamber. The lights were dim, and the walls no longer pulsed with their usual strength. She stared into the glass floor, watching a slow swirl of stars pass beneath her ship. But her mind was not on space. It was on him, on Ethan, a human male who should have meant nothing. But now he meant everything. She placed her hand over her chest. There was a faint warmth there, something she had never felt before. Alien rulers were bred for control, for command, for cold logic, but ever since she met Ethan, her thoughts were not clear. She felt distracted, unstable, alive. Her body was changing slowly, her thoughts twisting in ways no queen should think. Her advisors warned her. Her scientists whispered behind her back, but she didn't stop. Instead, she summoned Ethan again. He entered the room with calm steps, his face calm as always. The guards didn't touch him this time. He walked in like he belonged. "You called," Ethan said, his eyes meeting hers without fear. "Yes," she replied, her voice softer than usual. "Sit." He didn't. "I'll stand," he said. The Queen raised an eyebrow, then let out a soft breath. "Very well," she said. A long silence filled the space between them. Then she spoke again. "When I was young," she began, "I led a war to save my people." Ethan didn't move, but he listened. "We lost our son," she said. "Our home burned, and we were left wandering. I became queen because I showed no emotion." She continued, "No fear, no mercy." Ethan nodded slowly. "But now," she said, her voice breaking just slightly, "I dream." Ethan tilted his head. "Dream?" he asked. "Like pictures in your head while you sleep?" "Yes," she whispered. "I see colors and sound, and a field of green. I feel grass under my feet," she said. "And a voice that says my name." Ethan said nothing, but something in his eyes softened. "It's your voice," the Queen added, almost too quietly to hear. Ethan stepped forward, unsure what to say. "I don't control it," she said. "It happens when I am alone. I feel ... Weak?" "No," Ethan replied. "That's not weakness." She looked at him sharply. "Then what is it?" "It's life," he said. "It's what it means to be real." She laughed, a short, surprised sound. "I have ruled for 200 years. She said, "I have never been real." Ethan gave her a sad smile. "Then maybe you were just surviving," he said, "not living." The Queen stood, walking toward him. Her height towered over him, but this time, it didn't feel like a threat. It felt close, personal. "You challenge me without fear," she said. "Why?" "Because I see more than your armor." Ethan answered, "I see someone trying to understand." She stared at him, then reached out her hand. "Touch me," she said. Ethan hesitated. "Why, I want to know if it happens again." She said, "The spark." Slowly, he placed his hand in hers the moment their skin touched. Light burst around them, not heat, not pain, but energy, pure, golden light, flowing from Ethan into the Queen. Her eyes widened, and her body glowed faintly. Symbols appeared in the air, unknown alien codes mixed with human patterns. The ship shook slightly, as if reacting to the connection. Ethan pulled back, breathing heavily. "What was that?" he asked. The queen looked at her hands, which now glowed softly. I don't know, she whispered. But I want more. Ethan stepped away, unsure. This isn't normal, he said. No, she replied. It's something new. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then a sharp alarm sounded. Going through the chamber. Red lights flashed, and a voice came through the wall. Emergency. In Sector 9, unauthorized activity, the queen turned away from Ethan, her face cold again. Return to your chamber, she ordered. Ethan frowned. Just like that. This isn't safe. She said, not yet. The guards came, but didn't touch him. Ethan left without another word. The queen stood alone, staring at her glowing hands. She was no longer just a ruler. No longer just a symbol of control. Something inside her had begun to change. Something deep. A spark had been lit, and no one, not even her most loyal soldiers, would be able to put it out. The queen stood in front of the mirror in her private chamber. She didn't recognize the reflection. Her silver blue skin now shimmered with a softer glow. Her glowing purple eyes had a trace of warmth, and her long white hair moved more gently, like it was dancing with air. This was not the face of a cold, perfect ruler. This was something else, something in between. She touched her chest, right where Ethan's hand had rested days ago. There was still a warmth there, alive, steady, growing. She could feel it even in her dreams. The dreams had changed too. No longer were they of war and fire. Now she saw green fields, rain, laughter, and small human children playing near rivers. She had never seen rivers like that. She had never laughed like that. And yet, she felt like she remembered it all. Her scientists told her the truth. You are mutating. My queen once said, your DNA is merging with human elements. Impossible. Another whispered. But undeniable, they brought her more data. Scans, blood results, energy charts. She had changed more in 1 week than in the past 100 years. Her heart, the part of her race that had been long dead, was now beating stronger. It was adapting, responding to emotions, to Ethan. The queen dismissed her scientists. She needed time alone. She needed to think. But time was not on her side. Whispers had begun among her own people. Advisors questioned her decisions. Guards watched her movements with doubt in their eyes, and her second in command, General Vecker, had grown silent, too silent. She knew what that meant. He was planning something. But she couldn't focus on him yet, not when her own body was rebelling against her mind. Later that evening, she walked into the observation chamber. Earth spun slowly beneath them, bright, blue, and full of noise. Ethan was already there, sitting alone, watching the planet. He didn't turn when she entered. You came, he said. You called. She replied. There was no anger in her voice, only curiosity. He finally turned to her. You look different, he said. I feel different, she admitted. Is that a good thing, he asked. She paused, then nodded. I don't know. Ethan smiled slightly. Welcome to being human. They stood together in silence. Then the queen asked, why do you care so much? About what? Ethan said, about me. Ethan looked at her with calm eyes. Because you listened, he said. Because you're trying. That's more than most people ever do. She stared at him for a long moment, then asked the question that haunted her dreams. Am I becoming one of you? Ethan shook his head. No, he said. You're becoming something new, something in between. She turned back to the planet. My people won't accept this. She said, they fear change. People always do, Ethan replied. But change happens anyway. Suddenly, the room shook. A low alarm began to ring. The queen turned sharply. Emergency alert. A voice said through the wall. Unauthorized movement in Sector 3. She touched the control panel. A hologram appeared, armed guards moving through the lower deck. Weapons raised, Vecker was leading them. "This is it," she whispered. Ethan stepped forward. "What's happening?" "They're coming for me," she said. "They believe I'm no longer pure." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Then, let's go," he said. She looked at him, surprised. "You would protect me. You didn't kill me," he said. "So yeah. I'd say we're even." She gave the smallest smile. Then opened a hidden path behind the observation room. Together, they moved through the tunnels. Silent and fast, the Queen led him to the hangar bay. "We'll go to Earth," she said. "It's the only place they won't expect." "Won't they follow?" Ethan asked. "They fear the planet," she said. "They see it as dirty." They entered a small escape vessel shaped like a silver dart. The Queen sat in the pilot's seat, her hands glowing as they touched the controls. The ship hummed to life as they launched. Alarms rang louder across the mothership Vecker's. Voice filled the halls. "The Queen is fleeing. Stop her." But it was too late. The dart ship shot out of the hangar and toward Earth like a streak of fire. Inside, the Queen closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I am not what I was." Ethan sat beside her, silent but ready beneath them. Earth grew larger, closer, brighter, and for the first time in her long life, the Queen felt fear, not of war, but of being known, of being real, of being changed. The escape pod landed in a quiet forest far from any city. It was night, and the sky was full of stars. The Queen stepped out first, her silver blue skin glowing softly in the moonlight. Ethan followed behind her, carrying only a small bag. "This place is safe," he said. "At least for now." The Queen looked around, curious. Trees moved gently in the wind, and insects made tiny sounds she had never heard before. "It is peaceful," she whispered. They walked together through the forest until they reached Ethan's cabin. It was small, made of wood and stone, with a simple roof and a single door. Inside, it smelled of earth and firewood. The Queen stood in the middle of the room and looked around. "No glowing walls," she said. "No machines. Just life," Ethan replied. "Simple life." The Queen sat down on a wooden bench, her tall form barely fitting. She looked tired, more tired than Ethan had ever seen her. "I've never run from anyone before," she said. Ethan lit a small fire. "You didn't run," he said. "You chose to live." She didn't respond, but she didn't argue either. That night, she couldn't sleep, not because of fear, but because something in her chest ached. Not pain, not sickness. It was something new. She thought about her people, her ship, and General Vecker. He had been by her side for decades, loyal and strong. But now he had turned against her, not with weapons first, but with doubt. Doubt was always the beginning of betrayal. The next morning, a message came. It was hidden in the wind. Carried by a small device Ethan found near the river, he handed it to her, and the Queen activated it with her hand. A blue light appeared, and Vecker's face formed in the air. "My Queen," he said, "or should I say, former Queen. You left us for a human. You abandoned the blood that made you strong. Your seed is no longer ours. We are taking control now. You will not return." The message ended. The Queen stared at the empty space where Vecker's face had vanished. She didn't move, didn't speak. Ethan sat beside her. "I'm sorry," he said. She closed her eyes. "I trusted him," she whispered. "I raised him like a son. Now he's turned my people against me." "What will you do?" Ethan asked. "I don't know," she said. "Everything I believed is breaking." Ethan stood up and walked. Outside, the wind was cold, and the stars were still out. He looked up at the sky and saw a shadow move across the stars. "Queen," he called. "We've got company." She rushed outside, and her eyes glowed again. Above them, 3 dark ships hovered in the clouds. "Silent but watching, they've found us," she said. She reached into her robe and pulled out a small silver orb. with a touch. It expanded into a wide energy shield that covered the entire cabin. The ships did not attack. They waited. "This is a warning," the Queen said. "They want us to run again? Then let's not." Ethan replied. She turned to him, surprised. "You want to fight. I want to stop running," he said, "and so do you." That night, the Queen used the tools inside the pod to build a signal device. She sent a message not to her army, not to Vecker, but to a secret group of loyalists who had once followed her during the old wars, people who believed in her before she was queen. People who believed in change. She waited, and finally, they answered, "We are coming," the message said. "For you." The Queen smiled for the first time in days. She looked at Ethan. "You gave me more than mutation." She said, "You gave me hope, just trying to survive," Ethan said with a smile. "No," she replied. "You're teaching me how to live." But as the forest went quiet again, a shadow moved near the edge of the shield. Ethan didn't see it, but the Queen did. A figure stood just outside the energy field, tall, armored, with red glowing eyes. It was not one of hers. It was a hunter, an assassin. Sent to end her for good, the Queen placed her hand on the edge of the shield. "They won't wait much longer," she said. "War is coming." Ethan stood beside her. "Then we fight," he said. Together, the Queen nodded. The betrayal had begun, but so had the resistance, and this time, they wouldn't be silent. They would roar. The sun rose over the forest, but peace did not come with it. The Queen stood at the edge of the shield, her eyes fixed on the sky. Ethan checked the power levels of the energy dome. "We won't last long if they attack again," he said. "I know," she replied. "But we won't be here when they do." They had only hours, maybe less, before Vecker's full forces arrived, but they weren't alone anymore. At dawn, the first ship landed. It was old, rusted, and patched with human metal and alien tech. From it stepped three beings, tall, scarred, and armed. The Queen recognized them immediately. "Captain Ressa," she said, her voice steady. The tall female warrior gave a half smile. "Still breathing, I see," she said. "That means we're not too late." Behind her, others landed, small fighters, scout ships, even a few Earth-made drones. They came one by one, answering the Queen's hidden call. Loyalists, old friends, forgotten soldiers, and even rebels who had once fought against her but now believed in her change. They didn't come for the throne. They came for her and for what she stood for now. By noon, the forest was a base. Ethan and the Queen walked among them. Alien languages mixed with human laughter. There were strange machines charging beside old diesel generators. The Queen touched one of the fighters gently. "This ship flew in my first war," she whispered. "I never thought I'd see it again. Old things still have fight in them." Ethan said, "Like me," she added, giving him a look. Ethan smiled, but he was worried. He could feel the tension, the waiting, the heavy silence before battle. And he knew war was close. That night, the Queen gathered her allies in a circle. She stood without armor, without a crown, only in a simple dark robe. "I am no longer the Queen you once followed," she said. "I have changed. Some will say I am weak. Some will say I let a human poison my blood." She looked at Ethan. "But I say this. His seed was not poison," she said. "It was life, real. Life filled with feeling, with struggle, with growth. We do not fight today to protect a throne. We fight to protect the right to evolve, to feel, to love, to become something better." The crowd was silent. Then Ressa stepped forward, raised her weapon, and shouted, "For the new Queen." The cry echoed across the forest. Others followed, weapons raised, voices strong. For the Queen, for the future, the war had begun. The first attack came at midnight. Vecker's ships descended through the clouds like silent wolves, dark, fast, deadly. Lasers lit the trees, and explosions shook the ground, but the Queen's side was ready. Fighters launched, cannons fired. And the forest turned into fire and thunder. Ethan fought beside the Queen. His rifle in hand. He wasn't a soldier, but he knew how to survive, and now he was fighting for something more than survival. He was fighting for her, for what they could be. The Queen moved like lightning, her body glowing, her hands firing energy blasts that tore through enemy armor every time she touched the ground. The plants around her grew faster, stronger. She was no longer just a ruler. She was nature itself, reborn, awakened, alive. Vecker's forces pushed hard. But they didn't expect humans and aliens fighting as one. They didn't expect drones made from Earth scrap outmaneuvering royal ships. And they didn't expect Ethan. He had no armor, no tech. But he had the Queen's spark inside him. And when he fought, strange things happened. Bullets curved away from him. Fire didn't burn him. And once, when he grabbed an enemy, his touch sent a surge of light that shut down their suit. He's more than human now, Ressa said, watching in awe. He's her other half, someone whispered. But the battle wasn't easy. Ships crashed, soldiers fell. And the Queen took a hit to the shoulder. She fell back, breathing heavy. Retreat, someone shouted. She's down. No, Ethan said, stepping forward. We stand. He helped her up, and together they faced the final wave. It was Vecker himself. He stepped out of a black ship, wearing royal armor, taller and broader than before. You've shamed us all, he said, voice full of hate. You forgot what made us strong. The Queen stood tall. No, she said. I remembered what made us blind. They clashed light against dark, power against pride. Their energy blasts shook the earth. Trees fell, ships exploded. And soldiers on both sides watched in silence. Then Vecker struck Ethan, knocking him down hard. The Queen screamed, not in rage, but in fear. She rushed to Ethan, knelt beside him, and held his face. His eyes opened slowly. I'm not done, he whispered. She turned back to Vecker, her hands glowing with fire and tears in her eyes. For him, she said, and for all of us. She released a final blast, pure, golden, blinding. Vecker was thrown back, defeated. Silence fell, and when the light faded, the Queen stood tall, alive, strong, and no longer alone. Smoke rose from the battlefield. The trees were scorched, the ground cracked, and broken ships lay like bones in the dirt. But there was peace, for the first time in decades. There was silence without fear. The war was over. The Queen stood in the middle of the field, her tall form glowing faintly in the early light. Her robe was torn, her shoulder wounded, but her eyes were calm. Beside her stood Ethan, bruised and tired, but still on his feet. They had won. Vecker had fallen, defeated not by force alone, but by the power of change. He had refused to grow, refused to see what was coming, and in the end, that had destroyed him. Now the Queen faced a new challenge. Not war, not rebellion, but rebirth. Her people gathered around her, soldiers, rebels, humans, scientists. Even children who had followed the battle from shelters. They looked at her not as a ruler, but as something new. Something between species. Something born from two worlds. The Queen raised her hand, and silence followed. We fought to protect the past, she said. But now we must build the future. I am not who I was, she continued. I am not the perfect being you once feared. I have felt weakness. She said, I have felt love, and because of that, I am stronger than ever before. She turned to Ethan. He showed me what it means to be alive. I thought emotion was weakness, she said. But it is the fire that makes us move forward. No one cheered. Not yet. They listened, not just with ears, but with hearts. Then, slowly, a young soldier stepped forward and knelt. Others followed, one by one, kneeling before her. Not out of fear, but respect. The queen looked at them, then back at Ethan. "Will you stand with me?" she asked. Ethan looked into her eyes and nodded. "Always," he said. The days that followed were full of work. The forest became a home for survivors. Alien tents stood beside human tools. Drones flew overhead, planting seeds and clearing smoke. The queen moved among the people, healing the sick with her energy. Ethan taught others how to grow food, how to build with hands and hope. Together, they led without thrones, without fear. News spread across galaxies. The former queen had not died. She had evolved, and in doing so, had united two species once divided by pride and war. Some didn't believe it. Others came just to see her with their own eyes. And slowly, carefully, the world changed. One evening, the queen sat alone by the river, watching the water flow. Ethan joined her. Carrying 2 cups of something warm, they drank in silence for a while. Then she asked the question she had kept inside. "Do you think this will last?" Ethan looked at the sky, then back at her. "If we keep choosing it," he said. "Yes." She nodded. "I feel something," she said, placing her hand on her stomach. "It's new." Ethan's face changed, surprised and soft. "A child?" he asked. She nodded again, her eyes glowing with wonder. "Half me," she said, "half you." Ethan placed his hand over hers. "We'll raise them together," he said. The stars above seemed brighter that night, as if the galaxy itself was watching. Months passed. A small city rose from the old battlefield. It was not built on power, but on unity. Humans and aliens lived side by side, learning from each other, and in the center of the city stood no palace, no tower, only a garden, a living symbol of growth, of peace. Of what once was impossible, the queen walked through it daily. Greeting farmers, engineers, and children, they didn't call her Your Highness. They called her mother, teacher, healer, and sometimes, when the stars were clear, they called her the new queen. Not for what she had ruled, but for what she had become. Ethan stood with her, always watching, always steady. He was not her king, not her servant. He was her balance, her root in the soil of a new world. And when their child was born, glowing skin, human eyes, and a soft cry that echoed in both languages, everyone gathered. They looked at the baby, the living symbol of everything they had fought for, and they knew this was the beginning of a different future. Not just for humans, not just for aliens, but for both. Together, the queen held her child close, looked up at Ethan, and whispered, "It was always more than just war." He smiled and nodded. It was about becoming something new. The garden bloomed around them, and in the middle of it, a single tree stood tall. Its roots deep, its branches wide. It would stand for generations, just like the story of the queen who once scoffed at humans until his seed changed everything.